She thought letting you go meant she'd still keep control. Not over you directly. No, that would be too obvious. She wanted to keep control of your attention, your emotions, and the way you reacted to her silence. She believed that if she pulled back first, you'd come chasing, that if she distanced herself, you'd respond with more energy, more effort, more pleading, because that's what always worked for her before. But this time, something different happened. You didn't chase. You didn't argue. You didn't try to prove your worth. You let her go fully, completely, with no dramatic exit. And that right there, that's what flipped the entire script. See, she was ready for a reaction. She was prepared for ego battles, for emotional flare-ups, for proof that you couldn't handle losing her. But what she wasn't prepared for was your silence, your composure, your decision to walk away without needing to explain yourself. She didn't realize the power you were sitting on until you chose not to use it. Because when a person walks away without resentment, without begging, and without trying to fix what someone else broke, they become unforgettable. And now she's sitting with that silence, and it's not peaceful like she expected. It's heavy, it's loud, it's personal. The more she thinks about it, the more she realizes that you didn't let her go out of weakness. You let her go because you had finally stopped lying to yourself. You stopped believing that her potential mattered more than her actions. You stopped hoping that one day she'd meet you with the same energy you gave so freely. That shift in you changed everything. She let you go thinking she'd still have you emotionally. She thought she could end the relationship, but still have a presence in your thoughts. What she never expected was for you to outgrow her in silence. Now that you're not orbiting around her anymore, now that your life is moving forward, your energy is rising, and your presence is no longer on standby, she's starting to feel the loss she thought you would be dealing with. But here's the difference. You processed it, you accepted it, and then you let it go. She, on the other hand, is just now realizing what she walked away from. And that realization doesn't come with peace. It comes with weight. The weight of knowing that the one person who truly saw her, respected her, and never needed to manipulate to lead is now gone. Not missing, not hiding, just gone. She might still act like she's fine. You'll see the posts, the stories, the curated smiles. Maybe she's out with friends, looking unbothered, captioning her night with some vague quote about self-love or letting go. But what you don't see, what no one else sees, is the tension underneath all that presentation. Because pretending to move on is a lot easier than actually doing it. For someone who always relied on being the one with emotional control, watching that control disappear in silence is brutal. You see, she doesn't just miss the comfort. She misses what your presence made her believe about herself. You reminded her of her softness. You made her feel safe enough to lower her guard, even if only for a moment. And now that energy is gone, replaced by surface-level interactions that never touch her soul. She's surrounded by people eager to impress her, but none who challenge her to be more. People who compliment her appearance but not her intellect. People who see the image but not the inner world she kept hidden from almost everyone except you. And that contrast, it's eating at her quietly because she's beginning to understand something she didn't want to admit before. The most powerful kind of person isn't the one who tries to win her over. It's the one who walked away without needing her approval. You didn't fall apart when she left. You didn't spiral, beg, or go online throwing accusations. You kept your energy clean. You stayed focused. You stayed in motion. And now she can feel the difference between someone who wanted her and someone who chose himself over needing to be chosen. That's what shifted everything, because now you've become something she can't compete with. Not another person, not another relationship, not a rebound or a new situation. She can't compete with your peace. And that peace, it doesn't come from playing games. It doesn't come from trying to make her jealous. It comes from finally recognizing your own worth, not as a tactic, but as a reality. That's what stings the most. You didn't try to replace her. You didn't announce your growth. You simply stopped feeding energy into something that no longer served your path. And now, without your energy validating her place in your world, she's left with one simple truth. She let go of something she didn't fully understand. And now that she does, it's too late to return to the version of you that waited, because the version of you she's remembering, he doesn't exist anymore. You evolved in the silence, not out of revenge, but out of necessity. And now that you've reconnected with your purpose, your peace, and your presence, there's nothing left for her to hold on to. And that, more than anything, is what's driving her crazy. Here's what she never calculated. You were the one person who didn't need closure to move on. That's what really separates you now. You didn't chase after a reason. You didn't need her to explain what changed. You didn't ask her to help you make sense of the silence, because you stopped seeking answers in places that only ever offered confusion. And that shift, that quiet decision to no longer look for meaning in mixed signals, that's what elevated you beyond her reach. Because most people get stuck right there, circling the same moment where they were left needing validation just to heal. But you didn't. You chose peace over proof. You chose clarity over chaos. You didn't wait around for her to suddenly become emotionally fluent. You accepted that the version of her you wanted might have never existed in the first place, and that was enough to let go. And that kind of letting go, it's rare. It's not the kind that comes from ego or pretending not to care. It's the kind that comes from outgrowing someone emotionally while still remembering them respectfully. You didn't need to forget her. You just stopped needing her to understand you. And in doing so, you became something she never expected. A person she couldn't guilt trip or confuse. A person who once gave everything and then walked away with nothing but self-respect. That's not just attractive. That's haunting, because now she sees it. She sees how you didn't fold when she pulled away. She sees how you didn't shrink yourself to fit the emotional gaps she never closed. She sees how in losing you, she didn't just lose love. She lost access to your presence, access to your wisdom, access to the emotional safety you provided without ever needing to say much. And now she's out in the world, trying to recreate that energy with people who don't even know how to hold space for their own thoughts. She's starting to understand what she really had. You were calm in a world full of noise, and she mistook that calm for a lack of intensity, when in reality, it was the highest form of strength, the kind that doesn't argue to be right, the kind that doesn't compete for validation, the kind that loves fully, but lets go cleanly. Now, she's left trying to figure out what she thought she wanted, while replaying the moments she didn't take seriously, the messages she left unanswered, the calls she ignored, the feelings she buried under sarcasm and pride. And as those memories surface, so does the regret, not because she wants to run back into your life, but because she finally realizes she's no longer welcome there. You didn't just move on. You built a version of yourself that no longer needs to be understood by someone who once looked right through you. And that's when you know you've won. Not when she comes back, but when it no longer matters if she does. What you've done isn't just healed, you've evolved. You see, healing is about closing wounds, but evolving, that's about rewriting the story that created them. You're no longer the version of yourself who seeks peace in people who thrive on chaos. You're no longer the person who takes silence as a puzzle to solve. Now you let people be who they are, and you watch how they handle your absence without guilt, without bitterness, and without reaching back into the fire just to prove you can survive it again. And that's exactly what she sees now. You didn't just walk away. You leveled up in a way she can't follow, not because she can't reach you, but because the version of herself she'd need to become to meet you where you are now requires a depth she never built. You taught her what real presence feels like, what calm confidence feels like, what it's like to be chosen, not as a reaction, not as a rebound, not as a placeholder, but as a conscious decision made by a person who could have had anyone and still chose her. Chose her. And now you're teaching her what happens when that kind of person unchooses her. It's not a loud exit. It's not a dramatic, "I'm done" message. It's just a shift, a quiet, unspoken closing of the door that once stood wide open, and she feels it. She feels it in the way you don't watch her stories, in the way you don't leave room for her in your energy anymore, in the way your attention now belongs to your purpose, your peace, and your next level, not her. And here's the part that stays with her the most. You didn't punish her for walking away. You didn't try to one-up her with a new relationship. You didn't use your growth to make her feel small. You simply became unreachable, not because you blocked her, but because you stopped needing her validation to feel whole. That's a lesson she'll carry quietly for a long time. Because you weren't just another person she dated. You were the one who broke the pattern, the one who didn't fold, the one who stayed solid, even when everything around you was designed to pull you out of alignment. And now you're no longer a chapter in her story. You're the moment she realized some people don't come back. She never expected that your silence would speak louder than anything she ever said. Because when most people disappear, they leave chaos behind. They leave with bitterness, passive aggression, or some form of damage control, like they're trying to prove a point. But you left with dignity. No closure requests, no second guesses, no dramatic declarations. Just quiet certainty that if she had truly valued you, she wouldn't have made you question your worth in the first place. And that's what's rewiring her now. Not the loss itself, but the calmness of it, the simplicity, the fact that you didn't give her the one thing she was secretly counting on, an emotional reaction. You didn't beg her to reconsider. You didn't try to rekindle something that was already fading. You didn't feed her ego one last time just to make the goodbye feel softer. You walked away like someone who's done it before, like someone who already understands that love isn't proven through suffering. It's proven through standard. Now you're not just the person who let her go. You're the person who showed her the cost of being inconsistent. You became the consequence, not because you wanted to hurt her, but because you refused to keep hurting yourself just as to stay close to someone who couldn't meet you halfway. What's more, she can't blame you because deep down she knows you gave her every chance, every opportunity to choose clarity over games, presence over pride, love over power. You had a person who didn't just show up, he showed up whole, healed, and honest, and she wasn't ready. So now, while you build quietly, she scrolls, hoping to see herself in your life again, not because she wants attention, but because she wants to feel relevant to the story again. But here's the part that makes her ache in silence. The story is still going, it's just no longer about her. No matter what she posts, who she's with, or how many masks she wears, she knows that nothing hits harder than being replaced by peace. She was used to being your weakness. Now she sees she was just a part of your journey, not the destination. She thought silence would make her feel powerful, that walking away without explanation or accountability would somehow shift the dynamic in her favor. But now that silence is doing something very different, it's turning into a mirror, and every day you remain unbothered, unavailable, and focused on your own growth. That mirror gets sharper because now she's no longer thinking about what you did wrong. She's thinking about all the things she avoided facing while you were still around. She's remembering how patient you were when she was indecisive, how present you were when she was distracted, how loyal you stayed even when she gave you half of herself. With every reminder, shame starts to creep in, quiet, invisible, but heavy. Here's what's happening now. She's realizing you were never the problem. You were the mirror to the parts of herself she wasn't ready to grow into. The way you communicated clearly, the way you stayed consistent, the way you didn't play games, but also didn't tolerate them, it all felt like too much back then. But now, dealing with people who treat connection like a trend, who ghost when it gets inconvenient, who speak in surface-level lines with no emotional depth behind them, you suddenly don't seem like too much. You seem like exactly what she needed. But the difference now is you're not offering it anymore. And that's where the real shift has happened, not in her feelings, but in your standards. Because this time, you're not leaving the door cracked open. You're not waiting for her to circle back once she feels the emptiness. You're not pausing your life to make space for someone who made you an option. You've upgraded internally, spiritually, emotionally. And that kind of growth can't be undone, not even by nostalgia. She might reach out one day, maybe subtly, maybe through a mutual friend, maybe with a message that seems innocent on the surface, but beneath it will be a quiet hope that the version of you who once made her feel safe is still waiting. But he's not, because he didn't disappear. He evolved. And that version of you, he doesn't seek comfort in the familiar anymore. He's chasing alignment, not attachment. He's responding to energy, not history. He's honoring peace over potential. Now, what she's really struggling with isn't that she let go. It's that when she finally looked back, you were already gone. By the time it really hits her, your life will have already moved forward. You won't be the person still checking her page. You won't be replaying old conversations wondering what went wrong. You'll be somewhere better, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Not because you had to rush your healing, but because you chose not to pause your growth for someone who wasn't ready to meet you where you stood. She expected you to collapse without her. What she didn't expect was for you to rebuild your peace without needing her apology. And here's what truly stings on her end. You didn't disappear in anger. You didn't cut her off to get revenge. You simply became unavailable in the best way possible. Unavailable to anything that doesn't match the value and peace you bring to the table. You outgrew the dynamic not out of spite but out of understanding. And now she sees what she never looked for. Your strength wasn't in your presence. It was in your ability to walk away without leaving a mess. So if you're sitting here now, still wondering if she'll ever get it, stop. Because the real power isn't in her realizing what she lost. It's in you realizing what you gained the moment you let go. Let that be the lesson. Let that be the win. And let that carry you into everything you're building next without the weight of someone who couldn't carry you with them. Now, if this spoke to you, don't just leave with a good feeling. Leave with clarity. Tap the next video on your screen. It's not just another upload. It's a continuation of this journey you're already on. And you owe it to yourself to see how far it can take you. Ooh.